and thank you for joining us on another governance webcast series on COVID-19 with Chartered Accountants Ireland. My name is Níall Fitzgerald. I'm the Head of Ethics in Chartered Accountants Ireland, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Margaret Sweeney, who's a Chartered Accountant and CEO of Irish Residential Properties Real Estate Investment Trust plc. Margaret currently holds several non-executive positions with organisations such as Dalata Hotel Group, Irish Institutional Property, and of course Margaret is an elected member of the Council of Chartered Accountants Ireland. Margaret, that is an impressive CV, and thank you for joining us here today and to speak with us and to share your experience and expertise. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Niall. Nice to speak with you as well.
So Margaret, I'm going to launch straight in, and I'm going to say at the start of 2020, the Irish residential property market was doing very well, but COVID-19 came along and hit the brakes very suddenly. From your perspective, Margaret, to what extent has the residential property market been impacted by COVID-19 exactly in Ireland?
So I suppose of all the areas, our residential homes have never served so many valuable purposes. I think with all the government restrictions coming in, everyone has suddenly had to pursue all their pursuits from their own homes, whether that's working. Everyone in the space of a couple of weeks, literally, we moved all businesses to, as much as possible, working from home. And that happened very nimbly with huge agility. I've never seen such speed of change ever in my career. And nobody was looking for all the obstacles. It just happened and seems to have happened very well and very effectively for most companies. I think the pandemic and this crisis will be felt by all sectors. So we're seeing, particularly on the housing side, we came into this crisis with a severe housing supply in Ireland, and that was across all sectors, whether it was for private ownership, for private rental accommodation, or for social and affordable housing. And we could see that play through in terms of the political side, even in terms of the last election. It became very central to the last election as well. And I think one of the impacts from this crisis has been we were trying to get supply up, and it had been moving up slowly, a lot slower than anyone in the sector wished for. With the restrictions over the last number of months, the estimates currently are that supply will be down by 10 to 12,000 units for this year from initial expectations. So we're probably going to have new output this year of anywhere between 14 and 16,000. What we're also seeing is that I suppose people are thinking around space and how we design new homes as well, and that's become very much now a topic. And people generally want nice places to live. It's their home, good places to live with good infrastructure and good support, nice locations, well serviced with schools, good public transport. People are definitely not missing long commute times in this lockdown. If anything, that's what I hear pretty consistently from people.
This is not like the last recession where we all suffered a big housing crash. This is very different, and in fact the green shoots that were there before, they're still there. I think that there's got to be optimism in that. There's got to be something to look forward to there, that there's a lot coming down the track in relation to housing.
Yeah, I think that it's very different to the last time round. I think residential is very resilient, and you can see that coming through. There's a lot more equity, so it's not debt-based. We came to the last financial crash with a lot of debt, whether it was consumer debt across businesses. We're coming into property this time around, and residential particularly, with a lot more equity under it, whether from the individual for home ownership or for businesses. And we're a real estate investment trust, as you said at the outset. For us, 50% of the business has to be equity based. We can never leverage above 50%, which has actually made the business very resilient. We're also required to pay out a minimum of 85% of our profits as dividends every year. Okay. So we find a lot of our investors are more pension funds looking for long-term steady returns. Okay. So I think that's what I'm seeing this time, less leveraged businesses, definitely more resilience under them, and will navigate through this challenge and this crisis with more a long-term outlook. I think the second thing that I see out of this as well is that the fundamentals are still the same here. The population is growing. we're saying that Ireland's population will grow by 1 million people, probably over the next 20 years or so. We're seeing smaller household sizes. People still want to live in cities. People are living longer. So all of those actually create demand for new homes. And the challenge, I think, apart from the supply one that we've had here, is affordability. The cost of construction of new homes in Ireland across any of the sectors, for home ownership, for rental or for social housing, is expensive. There was a study done by IIP, Irish Institution of Property, with some experts that was launched a couple of months ago. And the cost of building 2-bed apartments in Dublin is over 440,000.
Margaret, you mentioned the real estate investment trust and the fact that you've got a lot of equity investors. A lot of them would be institutional investors. And yes, they're very interested in getting returns. Obviously, the pensions have to be paid out, etc. But a lot of institutional investors are also very interested in organisations in relation to sustainability, corporate social responsibility. And what we've seen in this crisis is we've seen some organisations excelling in putting their people, their communities, and the greater public good first. As many of them have turned their operations towards good causes, be it the production of scrubs and hand sanitizers for our wonderful frontline workers, to putting assets to work for those in need and affected by the crisis.
Yeah, no, I think for the first time, ESG, environmental, social and governance, has been around, Níall, as you know, and very much a requirement for all companies, and particularly for institutionally funded companies, to be very conscious of it and coming through from all the codes of governance over the last number of years. There's been a lot of talk around the E part of it and about the G part of it for a good number of years. I think really S has probably been very much now to the fore around the social. And I think very much, companies have to be socially responsible and with good governance. And I think a lot of companies have really stepped up to the plate very quickly. And that's right across. I see ourselves on the accommodation side, as I mentioned, housing supply has been a big challenge. Finding vacant accommodation in Dublin is difficult. We ourselves had new apartments we got on board at the end of March, and we provided those to some of the doctors coming home from Australia. So we actually housed 22 of frontline medical people. And also for Tala Hospital, we also needed apartments for frontline staff. So we provided them with 13 apartments as well, new apartments. And I have to say our suppliers as well, we reached out to them. So literally they became totally turnkey. So everyone stepped up, all our employees, ourselves as a company, our suppliers, to try and actually support that frontline staff. So I think you'll see as, I've even noticed in the last 2 weeks, the amount of activity that started as things have started opening up with enthusiasm and optimism as well. And a sense that probably maybe we will come out of this much quicker. And on the S side, I've seen the JA clubs. I've seen young people doing huge amount of community support, delivering food, doing the shopping for older people, delivering food, doing Zoom calls, making sure they're connecting with people who are living on their own. So it's actually been admirable, I think, and heartening to see it both for individuals and companies. That whole community effort that goes in behind a crisis. And it's come through to the fore, I think, in Ireland very strongly.
But Margaret, I, like you, crave the social interaction of physical human beings, and I look forward to returning to the office. And on that note, Margaret Sweeney, Chief Executive Officer of the Irish Residential Properties Real Estate Investment Trust, thank you for taking time to join us and share your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Nice to talk to you, Níall. Thank you.